Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the fourth and final installment of Division C, Preparing for AERA 2027 Workshop Series. We're so happy to have you all here and answer any questions that you may have as it pertains to finding the right section for your proposal. Okay. I am Precious Hardy. I will be your host for this workshop series. And on our agenda today, of course, I am welcoming you. So again, welcome. Bring out your questions, bring any comments and all of that. We are here today to assist. We are going to first start off with some introductions, myself included, along with the other leadership members that are here. We're going to talk about Division C sections, the current sections that we have, why we have new sections, and all of that we'll discuss today. We'll talk about choosing the right section and what you should consider when you are considering which section of Division C to propose to or to submit to rather. We'll have some breakout rooms. Even though this says session breakout rooms, there are some changes and one of our program chairs will get to that. We'll talk about that once we reach that slide. We'll have those breakout rooms. We'll come back. We'll kind of have a little discussion. We'll talk about some general proposal tips as well as anything you may have learned, any insight you may have gained during your breakout section. We'd like to share that with everyone here. And then, of course, if there are any more lingering questions that you have towards the end, of course, you can at any point of time, actually, even in the chat, you can ask your questions. If things come up later, we will share with you contact information for the program chairs, as well as our division vice president, if you have any program-related questions or general Division C questions, okay? So again, I'm Precious Hardy. I'm assistant professor at Harris-O State University, assistant professor of psychology, and I am one of your hosts today, okay? Rebecca is also here. Rebecca?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Myers. I'll be the chat host. So if you have questions that come up, I'll make sure to throw them to our panelists. I'm a PhD candidate at Montclair State University in our teacher ed and teacher development program. And Dr. Fives is my advisor.
Awesome. And congrats. I didn't know that. So congrats. Then we have our program chairs. Delian.
Greetings, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is DeLeon Gray. I have the pleasure of serving with Emily and Helen Rose in programming responsibilities for Division C, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you all today.
Awesome.
And
Emily?
Emily Rosenzweig. I'm the other program chair for Division C, but pleasure's all mine. Dream team up here. And I'm really excited to be here today too.
Awesome. So next we're going to have our co-chairs that are online with us for the various sections that you see here to try and give a little introduction for themselves. So we can start with section 6. Jessica.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess Gladstone, assistant professor at the University of Illinois. And yeah, I'm one of the co-chairs of Section 6, Cognitive and Motivational Processes. And I am one of the co-chairs with Patrick Beamer, who can't be here today. And yeah, looking forward to all of your questions and submissions.
Awesome.
Hello, my name is Brooke Harris Thomas, and I am an assistant professor of educational psychology at the University of Michigan Dearborn. Go Blue. And I am, the co-chair of Section 7, Learning and Motivation in Social and Cultural Context, formerly Section 2B. And I'm excited to be able to talk with folks about whether Section 7 could be a good fit for your work.
Awesome. And is Elena here?
Is Alana here? I'm so sorry, I didn't double check.
It's okay.
We
No
have a
worries.
few others. We have Ella, we have Daryl as well.
Oh, okay. Do feel free to. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry. I apologize for no video. I am driving, and I know Joy is here as well. And I'm a co-chair for Section 8, mediated instruction. And so I look forward to just kind of sitting in and learning some things. But Joy, are you here?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm the co-chair of the Section 8 Technology Mediated Learning and Instruction. So I'm an assistant professor in the Learning Design and Technology program at NC State. Thank you, Emily. Whoever just joined, Emily also shared there's a attached PDF that gives you the information about this new Division C sections, and we are considered new one. So I'll be also be in the breakout rooms to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then section 9, Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. I'm Becca Lewick. I'm an associate professor of special education at Eastern Michigan University. And I am the co-chair of Section 9, along with Allison Levine from Utah State, who's not able to be here today. And our section is teaching practices and instructional discourse. And we're really excited to see all the great ideas that people are going to bring forth about teaching practices and instructional discourse in classrooms.
Awesome, awesome. Thank all of you for those introductions. I do just want to say, everyone, please take advantage. You have here the vice president of the division, the program chairs, as well as the co-chairs for these particular sections. So do take advantage and ask your questions when you have the opportunity to. Also, feel free to put questions in the chat. Okay. We are going to move on to the division VP, Helen Rose, to explain the new section structure.
Hi, I'm going to go over this very quickly. If anybody's really interested in how this came about, I'm happy to have a meeting with you and talk, but I think really people are more interested in like, where do I submit right now? So the section structure has not been modified since 2015. When I became vice president, people brought it to my attention in various ways. And okay, then it was 2025, so that was 10 years. It seemed like a good time to revisit. Some of the concerns were there weren't clear homes for research that is learning and instruction within the descriptions that we had in Division C. So there was no place if you studied culture responsive education, like, oh, I should put it in section 2, whatever. It didn't make sense. Larger ideas like theories of instruction or theories of learning, no clear place to put that either. I was told by people, I'm jumping down to my third bullet, a bunch of things like, oh, Division K is if you study teachers, Division C is if you study students. And I was like, no, we study instruction, so that's teachers. So there were just a lot. And then there's all these new areas of research that are emerging that people didn't know where to put. There was lots of duplications between Division C sections and SIGs. So people were creating new spaces because I guess they didn't see themselves in Division C. I mentioned these inaccurate assumptions. And then as I'll show you in the next couple of slides, just the distribution of labor among the section chairs was becoming unfair. So if we can look at the next one. So this is just the past 3 years, not including this year because we don't know this year, of how many submissions each section received. If we can go to the next slide. Oh, not that far. Back. You'll see that section 1B had 44 total submissions last year, but 3B had 353. Both sections only had 2 section chairs, right? And you can look across it. So needing to just redistribute this, not just to make it fair work for everybody, but also so that it's easier to conceptually put groupings together as people are designing the program. It seemed like we needed more spaces. That's next slide. How did we decide on it? So one of the first things I did as VP was to create a special committee assembled of diverse committee members. The committee worked for a year. They presented a suggested structure at the 2025 meeting. Because the deadline to change your section structures is actually months before the meeting of the following year, it couldn't happen for 2026. So we took that information, we talked to a lot of people at the program committee, we discussed it more. And then myself, DeLeon, and Emily, my program chairs, and I decided on this new structure with the intention that it is a pilot. So unfortunately, you may see a new structure next year or not. It's depending on how this goes. We need to see kind of like what the numbers come in as again. So I think that's it. Oh, this is just a quick alignment. There's not a ton of really new stuff. There's just more spots to put it, but I'm going to let whoever talks next explain the new structure itself. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. And actually, that will be our program chair, DeLeon, explaining all the
Yeah.
new sections that we have.
Yeah, so Emily and I, we're going to tag team a little bit on this. One of the things that was mentioned before that Joey mentioned was that in the chat, there are descriptions for each and every section in the document that's attached. And we'll reattach it for the folks who just joined on the call. But we just want to highlight a couple of things. As you can see from the first five at the top, these are more, focused in specific subject matter, domains, right? Versus the middle group, they're more topically focused a little bit, and then we have some emerging areas that we think are really important in the field. One of those being community engaged approaches to learning and instruction. It's something that has been emerging through webinars in Division 15, through sessions at AERA, and then digital learning environments as well. And so we have some fantastic people who are running those new emerging sessions. And one of our section chairs didn't get a chance to say hello earlier, and because she's such an amazing human being, I would love for you all to experience her energy. Ella, would you mind just coming off of mute really quickly and just saying hello to the folks so they can put a name with a face?
Me?
I
Ella.
think that's me. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm so glad that everyone is taking this Tuesday afternoon to join. I'm an assistant professor at North Carolina State in learning design and technology, and I will be co-leading this effort with the section 11, digital learning environments. And it was a great deal of thinking that I thought to how we differentiate those pockets, and we go there. If you perhaps see a lot of overlap in any specific section between, for example, 11 and 8, Joy and I believe Daryl is here listening. We are here to help you and see how we can support you and how we can direct your submission to the right place, to the right home. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. And Emily, any additional context that you'd like to add on this particular slide before we move on?
I'll just say, kind of to your point, sections 1 through 5 are about learning in the disciplines, and sections 6 and beyond tend to be things that can cut across disciplines or be grounded in one, but focus on certain processes or context or elements. And you're going to end up looking at this and thinking, maybe my proposal fits in multiple sections. And if you were here last week, that was a big theme of our discussion. Try not to let that scare you, but instead be a great opportunity, because for many of us, our proposals will fit in many sections. And the key questions, which we'll talk about, become: which conversation am I the most interested in joining? Which group am I the most interested in getting feedback from and talking with this year? So don't think about this like you have to fit in one box. Think about it like we are trying to create boxes that fit lots of interesting work, and your goal will be to find the box that best aligns with what you're doing this year.
Yes.
Some great. I know you guys also shared the call in the chat, but does any of the co-chairs, any of the co-chairs want to share a little bit of insight about what type of proposals you're looking for, giving the theme of this meeting? And it's fine if not. You can
Well,
hold
what
it.
I'll jump in there for, I am a champion of a lot of these areas, but 10 is exciting me the most these days because there are new methods that we can bring in to study things. Folks, at AERA in general, but also, through different initiatives that we even do through Division C, have been interested in more participatory frameworks, things that are knowledge that is generated in conversation with community members, or even having folks from different policy and practice spaces come to our conference and co-present and facilitate with us. These are examples of community engaged approaches. And so whether it's related to community engaged teaching and learning, related to learning and instruction, or specific emerging partnership processes. We're looking for empirical studies that get at this from a variety of perspectives, not only interdisciplinary perspectives, but also just conceptual perspectives as well.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for sharing that insight. Okay. I believe in waiting time. Okay. We're all educated too. So we're done here. Okay, so now program chair, again, Emily is going to kind of go through this slide about choosing the right section and questions that you should consider when it comes to figuring out which section you're going to submit your proposal to. So I'll just bring all of these out for you, Emily.
Yeah, just to give you a little bit of insight into the process. So when you submit your work through AERA at the deadline, what's going to happen is you're going to choose a section to which you can submit your work, and it goes into the system aligned with that particular section. And then the program and the section chairs will take all of the submissions for each section and they'll assign them to three reviewers, at least three reviewers, to give feedback. Now, the reviewer pool for who's going to look at and give feedback on your work and score it according to the criteria in the call are going to be based on the section. So we have different reviewer pools for each of our 11 sections. For that reason, it's really important to think about which section you submit your work to, because the section to which you submit is almost always going to be the section that reviews your work. I will say section chairs are going to look over all of these submissions and they'll assign them to reviewers that are a good fit based on subject matter expertise behind the scenes. And if we see things that are clearly not a fit in the system, we can reassign them on the back end to other sections. But in most cases, you're going to want to submit initially to the section where you think your work is going to be the best fit. And like I said earlier, and then one step back, then what we're going to do is wait for those reviews to come in. And once they all come in, section chairs will look at all of the things submitted to that section and think about how do these group together? Which types of conversations and topics do I want to highlight? What papers are really well reviewed that should be really the focus of a session, or a topic that seems to be emerging of interest, or what fits the theme. So section chairs are going to then group things into relevant conversations and categories. Why does this matter for you? Well, when you pick which section to submit to, you're effectively choosing which conversations you're interested in being a part of for this year, like I have said earlier. So I think what you want to think about not isn't will my work fit in X? But of the 3 or 4 sections where my work probably could fit, which conversation and topic is most central to what I want to talk about? Which conversations and topics are the most interesting for me to be part of at the conference? Which types of people do I want to review this work, to give feedback on the work, to talk about the work with me? And you might have another answer here that's multiple sections, multiple people, and that's totally fine, right? None of us fit neatly in one box. But the best way to think about picking a section is to think about the goals that your research is trying to accomplish, the scholarly conversations it's joining, and then to really think about how you're going to be able to send it out into the world and who it's going to reach. So when you look through the call for submissions, you'll see descriptions of each section, and we also have some guidance on edge cases that might fit in one or the other, especially around like learning technology and this kind of thing. And you could look at those for guidance, but I would also look closely at that call for submissions for things like keywords about the types of topics that are most of interest for each section. And you can look at that and see which keywords, which key conversations are most aligned with the types of things I'm looking at in my work. Instead of thinking about it as I belong in section 6 or section 7 because I'm a motivation researcher, my research will often touch on lots of different parts of the motivation world. And that a motivation study could fit in section 6 or 7, but it could also fit in section 5 or 11. It could fit in the disciplinary section if it's in a certain area. It could fit in the instructional discourse section if it's focused on teacher-student interactions and motivation. So I think there are a lot of different places where work can fit, and you should be less concerned about finding the wrong one than about finding the best fitting one is probably the best fit, the best advice I can offer.
Mm-hmm. And really good advice. I really like the one about checking out those keywords. It's really good advice. Okay, so now we are going to move into our breakout rooms, but before we do, I'm going to ask that Dilian explain how our breakout rooms will be set up because they have changed a bit. So,
Yeah, so the thinking behind the breakout rooms is it's a chance to talk things out a little bit with the folks in the room. This includes our peers, and engaging in scholarly discourse, but also, to your section chairs. And the reason why is because section chairs and program chairs get emails a lot from folks who might have some ideas. What do you think about this? Is this a good fit? I'm thinking about this angle, just like we saw in the chat today. So, come to the session ready to just share a little bit about what you're thinking. But the reality of it is, we're not we some people don't just submit one proposal. Often, you might have multiple proposals.
mhm.
So we're proposing 2 8-minute discussion rounds. Now, if you are really dead set on a particular section or you just want more depth with a particular set of folks on the other end, then you can go back into that particular session for another round. But at conferences, sometimes we like to hop around a little bit, go to this round table, for a little bit and go to this session over here for a paper, right, within the same time block. So with that in mind, they're going to be 2 8-minute sessions that you could use, like you want, but it's meant to be participatory. So just come ready to share out a little bit and jump into discussion. Don't be shy.
One quick note, the question that came in the chat is, do the breakout rooms apply to folks who are doing poster presentations? And when you submit to AERA, you actually just submit your work as one piece, and then you can choose the order that you want to be considered for presentation. So you'd choose your priority order of poster, talk, or roundtable, but they all go in as one submission. We often call them papers when we're talking about the submission system because that's the term AERA uses, but the papers could turn into a poster, a talk, a roundtable. The two formats you can submit are a session that you submit, which is like a symposium, a group of papers, or an individual paper, which could turn into a poster or a talk. So we can answer questions about either and both during the breakout sessions.
Mhm. And before we break out, thanks for sharing that, Emily. Before we break out, Becca, can you kind of tell them which room, or are they able to see which room? What's the topic for each room?
Yes, I just put that in the chat. You might have to scroll back up a tiny bit. Room 1 is going to be the non-tech content areas, so sections 1, 2, and 3 with Emily. Room 2 is going to be motivation, so sections 6 and 7 with Jessica, Brooke, and Alana. Room 3, technology. There's a bunch of sections there, 4, 5, 8, and 11 with Joey, Ella, and Helen Rose. And then room 4, teaching and community engagement, sections 9 and 10 with Rebecca and Dilian. And when I open up those breakout rooms, you can choose which one you're going to each time.
And I don't know if you said it yet, but you'll get another chance to go to a different one. Is that correct? So just to reiterate that you'll
Yes.
get to do a couple.
Yes. So,
Okay, so Becca, when you're ready to open those rooms, you can.
and then we'll have folks come back together for a large group share out before we close for today.
Welcome back, everyone, to our general section here. It sounds like you guys had some really good conversations, which is good. Hope you got a lot of insight and feeling more confident about where you're going to be submitting. So here, kind of as Dilian spoke earlier, is where we want to get you all to kind of share out and share some insight. Because of our limited time, everyone may not been able to go to each breakout room. And so it'd really be helpful to kind of share some of the information, some of the insight that you gained in that breakout room. We also have someone that missed, both of the breakout rooms who would really benefit from hearing kind of some of the stuff that you guys learned. And also feel free to ask your questions here, to unmute and ask your questions. We really, truly are just having a conversation right now. Anybody want to share some insight from their breakout room?
Well, I received some good advice, and I'm just wondering. I'd like some others to weigh in, and that is, my research deals with social interaction among immigrants uh, mother-daughter dyads in and using museum resources to learn more about their ethnic identity. So I thought um, 4 would be the best fit, and perhaps some others thought maybe 7 would be. So can I have some additional insight on that?
Yeah, I am representing, along with Alana, Section 7, which is the
Mhm.
learning and motivation in social and cultural context.
Okay.
And so I
Mm-hmm,
think the
mm-hmm.
emphasis on the relational aspect amongst immigrants and mothers and daughters, and then looking at the context of the museum space as being something that's facilitating
Okay.
some learning, I think that that certainly could fit nice and square within what we
Okay.
what we
Okay.
have seen. Yeah. We've had some
Okay.
sections that or we've had some yeah, sessions that have been about places and spaces outside of the classroom. Certainly,
Mm-hmm,
we had a session that
mm-hmm.
focused on learning happening within prison context and different things.
Mm,
And so, and I
mhm.
only say that to just say that we're not looking for things to have to be just within the um classroom or school
Mhm.
related after school program, you know.
Sure.
So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because and I mentioned this in the breakout session. The word that kind of threw me off was motivation, and so I thought perhaps I would have to now lean towards motivational theory, which I don't touch at all. And so that was the reason why I did not think 7 was appropriate, or would be the best fit, I should say.
And that's fair. And like in the description, it'll say like and like learning instruction and or motivation. So we do
Mm-hmm,
find that
mm-hmm.
sometimes it'll
That's
just be
true.
talking about learning and instruction, but it isn't
Mm-hmm.
worded like that in the title. So I can understand your hesitation there. So anyways, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I'll just jump in too and say we had a lot of people in the first breakout room asking about the methods they were using. So I'm using a critical approach or the perspectives. I'm using a critical approach. I have mixed methods. I have advanced analyses. Will this automatically put me in one of the sections above others? And to that, I'll give a no. The sections are divided more by content and the kinds of conversations you want to have. So you can look at last year's um, schedule and you can see who presents what in what sections and what sounds interesting methodologically, theoretically, perspective wise. I think the community engaged research is the one unit where there's a really distinct methodological or design perspective underlying it. Otherwise, I think it's safe to say you can find a home for your work no matter the analytical technique and perspective in most, if not all, of the sections.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Any other questions? Anyone have? Or statements, insight, things that you learned that were helpful to know?
Could I ask a question? This is Arlene.
Yes.
Hi. So I got really great advice just at the very last moment when I got on, in terms of my research with international students at the college level in Ontario, Canada, which is different from the universities, but through their workplace learning. My question now, so Section 7, I think is what I got, but in terms of the SIGs, is there any advice? Because I'm looking at through identity learning, reauthoring of identity. Um, uh, Through those lenses. Would you say workplace learning would be a sec for me, or immigration? Because definitely related to the immigration policies and the changing immigration policies, immigration and education. I'm new to AERA, so um, I'm going to go on to the portal. But in terms of SIGs, any advice?
Can anyone speak to that point about the SIGs?
SIGs are
It's like
tricky.
so many. So I
Yeah,
mean, I would also just find the list of them to make sure we wouldn't limit you from something that could be even more precisely in that space. So,
I
but
would
yeah.
recommend if you can watch listening to the workshop we ran last week about where in AERA your work might be a fit because we talk a little bit about this. There are, I think, over 100 SIGs and they don't have descriptions in the call like the divisions do. So I think if you're newer to AERA, it's a little bit easier to find your home in one of the divisions to start and then get to know the SIGs by going to events while you're there. But you can look on their websites, their social media accounts. Every unit in AERA runs, its own way. So that would be my best advice, just looking at what types of things have happened before at the conference in those units. Does it seem like that work is aligned with what you're working on? And remember that it's not that a SIG is the only place for your work. Usually, if it fits a SIG, it will also fit a division, and the SIGs just have really specialized conversations. So it's also okay to say for my first time, I'm going to look at the call and pick a division where in a section where I know I can clearly see that they'll be soliciting these things.
Great. Thank you so much.
I would also just add, you could write to the SIG chairs and ask them. That's what they want to know. SIGs can be very, well, I guess anything can be every entity in AERA has a culture to it and has their own norms. And so as an outsider, always coming in is those peripheral participation of action, whatever that theory is, like it's about learning what's happening. And looking at last year's program might be a really good place for you to start. Like, oh, who presented the kinds of things that I want to go to, that I want my work next to? Because they're probably going to continue in that same vein.
Good stuff.
Another suggestion that I had was looking at AERA program, the program from last year or even the year before, just to understand where am I seeing things that are kind of like the stuff that I want to submit. Is it division G, social context of education? Is it division A, administration, organization, and leadership? And it doesn't have to be, just one area, right? You can find yourself in these areas because people may not know that their work fits under Division C well, right? Well, with our new structure, that's possible. But just looking and exploring just to see, oh, this proposal got accepted to the conference. I would have loved to go to the session. I would love to see myself presenting alongside these presenters in this session. Okay, well, just trying to narrow it down for yourself just to get a sense, right? Because, I mean, Division C, our structure is definitely great this year, right? But if your stuff is kind of really broad and in different, kind of camps, possibly explore all camps and make an informed decision first, so that you can feel better about your choice about Division C versus thinking only about Division C without, exploring everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And
that
give yourself
advice.
and if you are not you, if one is uncertain about whether or not their proposal would be scored highly, but they really want to present at the conference, then give yourself the option of checking paper, but also poster and round table. Sometimes there are sessions that are solid, but because they only selected that they would present as a paper, they get rejected from the conference when they were good enough to get in. It was solid. This is news to the field, but the paper slots are just kind of limited. So, just being open to the different types could also increase the odds of getting accepted as well.
And if you're a graduate student, we have a poster award for graduate students. And so really consider all formats, especially if you're a trainee, because that's an additional opportunity to get your work recognized by the division.
Yes.
I would also just say if you're applying for the first time and there's more than one place you think you could fit, just try one. Do you know what I mean? Like some of it is just like diving in and not spending too much time getting caught up in whether this is the right or the wrong one. So it sounds like there's multiple places that a lot of your work might fit, and so just sort of launching in, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
All really great advice. Just a few more general proposal tips, which has already been stated, so I won't spend a lot of time. Of course, making sure that you read the actual call. Use some of those keywords. I remember, I don't know if it was Emily or Becca that said this earlier, but you can pull in some of those keywords into the proposal that you're writing. Choose the best intellectual fit, right? So think again about, what is this work? What is the contribution of this work that you're doing? And which conversation does that lend itself to? Making sure you remove all identification, your name, institution name, all of that other stuff, and making sure that you're writing for your reviewers. So we don't have to make it convoluted if it doesn't need to be. Just keep it simple, right? And clearly communicate your questions, your methodologies, and how your work is significant as it relates to the field. Anyone else want to add anything here? Because you guys probably talked a lot in breakout rooms already.
De-identify. If you don't de-identify, we have to reject it. Like
Yeah.
that's reject vibes. Like so just make sure you check that.
Yeah, it's like immediately rejection.
Which is a
Also,
bummer.
this is kind of something that has been said before in previous sessions, but you know, uh, play up the rigor of your proposal and like how you made certain decisions. But the tension there is that there's not a lot of space. So on the what you can do is you have tables and figures that do not count against your word count. So if you use those kind of creatively and really share meaningful information there, you may be able to overcome, feeling like you're at your max in terms of word count, but still show people that, this proposal has some legs to it and we really put some thought into it. Even if, the sample size is small, even if you don't have like, a randomized controlled trial, it still can be valuable news to the field, just with like some careful justification and rigor in your analysis.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Great point.
For sure. Well, it all seemed like it went by so quickly. But I do hope, wait, are there any other comments from anyone before we close out? Quick
Also,
comments.
like
I just
if you're working on a project and the project is still like in process, like a proposal, something like that, do we have to like submit the finished work or can we submit a work in progress?
Your work has to be finished to be submitted to the conference, but there is a graduate student research in progress call that comes out after the formal deadline for AERA submissions. And if you're a graduate student, that's a really excellent option, and you can submit work at various stages of the process. And it's also due a little bit later, giving you some more time to work on what you're doing now. But I think they do need your results and conclusions and data collection to all be done at the time of the submission deadline for the conference itself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have another question. You guys are talking about finding the keywords to match, but like, where do you know what the keywords are and where do you find them?
Just like go to each of the descriptions of each section and figure out if you were like highlighting the keywords in that section, what those words would be. So not more complicated than that.
Okay, gotcha.
And if you have any other questions that come up after this workshop, do
Yeah.
feel free to reach out to the program. Oh, okay, I see we have one. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's
Okay,
two
so
actually.
hold on.
Ying Dong had her hand up already. Did we get her?
Yes, thank you. I actually am interested in the section 8 for the technology mediated learning and instruction. Just a quick question about the subject of study. Is it just for the learner and the teacher, or it's also suitable for the professional training?
I will speak for that. So it's definitely, you would say professional training means for industry, or you're saying for teacher training?
Not for teacher training. It's just for the professional, like the emergency personnel, like who work in the firefighter and the medical personnel, and who just make some training for the crisis management, and we try to figure out if the simulation could support it for their learning for the crisis management and decision making?
I think as long as you touch that area around teaching and learning, in terms of who, I think it doesn't really matter. So it doesn't sound like a good fit. But feel free to reach out if you have questions because I have to go.
Okay, thank you
You
very
can
much.
email me. You have my email, right? And I'm
Yeah.
posting in the chat too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would just say that what you just described sounds a lot like Division I, which is learning in the professions. So you might want to reach out to the Division I VP, Lynette. She's amazing. And she could possibly give you some more guidance.
Division I. Okay, I will check it.
And Idris?
Yeah, so thank you. So I was thinking,
Thank you for you.
is
Yeah.
everything we've discussed here, to what extent does it really align with special interest group? I'm thinking of advancing a paper to adolescent special interest group, but I'm thinking, I mean, I've not seen anything so special about training of this regard to those that are just trying to submit for the first time. So I want to ask, on a generic level, everything we've discussed here, to what extent is it applicable to the SIGs?
So is your question whether the advice that people gave here is also applicable to the SIGs?
Yes, ma'am.
Every SIG is so different, so it's really hard to answer on behalf of SIGs. I think the general advice about picking the conversation you most want to be engaged with is relevant across the board because that's what most chairs will tell you of the different units of AERA. But some units they do prioritize certain methods, certain topics. And so it's really hard to answer that in a general sense. And so the best advice I can give if you're new to AERA is to read the call because that will signal what types of methods and topics are most of interest for each group. And then for the SIGs, because they don't have a call listed, I would email the SIG chairs, which you can find their information online. Because I think that's really the only way you can confirm whether your work will be a fit for them. I would hate to speak for chairs of a different unit where they might have different types of priorities and processes in place.
And I will just add, some SIGs have really nice websites and newsletters. So, if you track down your SIGs, see if their group is one that has that information. I think the Classroom Assessment SIG, for example, puts out some pretty specific guidelines on their website and in their newsletter about what they're looking for, but they're not in the AERA call.
Okay, and because we are now almost 5 over, I just want to say thank you all for joining us for this final workshop. I hope you got a lot out of it. And these again are just the contacts for people if you have program related questions or Division C general questions. If you want to reach out to co-chairs, they do have contact on the AERA website, so do feel free to go get that information there. And yeah, we hope to see all of you in Toronto next year. Okay. So have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.